Alumni Association and all the Hatters out there, and whoever else may be joining us. I'm thankful to have the chance. My third Thursday in a row here, so it's been good to be able to share some thoughts and ideas and some different things that I've been fortunate to be a part of. And tonight's topic is really about teamwork, which is obviously one of my favorite ones in coaching and in relationship building. We talked about last week and in leadership, how to lead the week before. And now we're putting all those things together and how to lead, how to communicate, and how to build a team. And how to lead and how to communicate is vital factors, obviously, in building your team. And so our mantra, since we've arrived here with team stuff, has been it's time. And this time has just kind of been a mantra mindset of our team. Is it's time to go to an NCAA tournament. It's time to build a brand that lasts and builds a legacy. So it's just creating a mindset from the beginning. Next slide you see here is something we talked about when I was at the University of Florida. I was an assistant coach, as many of you may know, and some of you may not know, for 13 years with Billy Donovan. So we went in to build a program there, and our mindset on a daily basis was about reaching the mountaintop every day. How do we win the day? How do we fight the process each and every day to build a team and everybody buying into their role and being great in their role to accomplish the goal? And we were fortunate to do it. 2006, we had an incredible group of guys. Nobody expected us to even go to the NCAA tournament that year. Got off to a great start. Had a young team with incredible togetherness. We didn't have the most talented team, but we had the best team. Went all the way to win a national championship. And so it was about reaching the mountaintop every day. And we talked about that. And we talked about how to get up the mountaintop. And the beautiful thing from that is we came back the following year as the same team, predicted number one preseason, and we went all the way to win a national championship back-to-back, being the only third team in college basketball history, being UCLA, Duke, and Florida, to ever win back-to-back national titles. So an incredible accomplishment, and everything that we talked about was winning the day, being in the moment, being able to reach the mountaintop, and everything we done and everything we focused on was about the success. Was it going to help us reach the mountaintop? Was it going to get us where we're trying to get to? That was the question we asked ourselves every day. Is this going to get us to the mountaintop with the choices we're making? So we talk about what is a team. There's lots of different things for teams. The team is two or more people linked in a common purpose who may be required to execute tasks high in complexity or tasks which may have multiple independent subtasks, which would be difficult to accomplish without the dynamics of the group. The team is a collective effort of a bunch of individuals with a common goal. There's a lot of different things we can say what team represents. And obviously these are these two teams that we won back-to-back championships. And here we are with President Bush at the White House celebrating one of those national championships. The power of teams. A team is not a group of people that work together. A team is a group of people who truly trust each other. And we talked about last week how to build trust. And in building teams, that's the most important quality. Before you can get buy-in, you got to have believe in. And so to get trust, we talked about three factors last week, which I'll reemphasize again. So it's so vital, is you got to have one, you got to have time. That's where you put time in. Right now, during this pandemic, we have a lot of new players that we were hoping to have on campus that are not able to be here now due to all the changes we've all had to occur with the summer. So the biggest thing we can do right now is spend time with them communicating, building trust by how we spend time. The second thing is consistency. What's our consistent message with who we are? Are we who we say we are, but based on our actions on a consistent basis? And the third is proof. Proof is just backing up more or less what you promised or what you say you are. So I always used to say it takes a year to really get to know somebody and to really get to buy into someone. because you get a chance to see them in a lot of different facets. So trust is a vital piece of our team and how we get buy-in with each other. And this is a picture here where we had a 10-year reunion, and we had a chance to all be together and celebrate it at a Gator football game when they represented those back-to-back championship teams. And we had incredible trust with an incredible group of guys. What makes teams great? These are things we're going to talk about here as we get going. I want to ask these questions to you. How do teams come together? How do they come together and stay near the top? And the habits of great teams and companies. We're going to talk about those things as we go here today. But how teams come together is a vital piece here. We're going to talk about how to, and then we're going to talk about how they stay together, the qualities that's involved with that, and stay near the top. As we talked about that first national championship team that I had the pleasure of being a part of, we had to be able to come back and do it again. And the path we took to get to the mountaintop was completely different than the one we took the first year. It was much, much more difficult. So to stay to the top, we're going to talk about the qualities that it takes to do that. And what are the habits of great teams and companies? So we talked about real leadership. We mentioned this here in the first week here about real leadership. We talk about bad teams. Nobody leads. That means nobody cares. Nobody knows how to communicate. Nobody has built trust. Nobody has got buy-in. Average teams are usually coach-led. They just do what the coach says. They don't follow anybody else on the team. Whatever coach does, they do it. And if coach isn't telling them to do it, they don't do any extra. Elite teams, which is what we had in those back-to-back national championship teams, were player-led. So they took what the coach had taught them, and they were able to be inspired, and they were able to lead each other. And that's when really big things can happen, not only in a business, but also in sports. So some of the great teams, these are some sports teams. We're going to look at the 92 USA basketball team, which was considered one of the greatest teams of all time. You had everybody on that roster except one guy, Christian Laettner, who is a Hall of Fame NBA player. You look at Alabama with all the championships they've won in football, the Celtics, the great teams, the Yankees, these teams, the Lakers. You look at some of these programs and you see teams that not only have been able to do it one year, but have found the formula to have great teams in a consistent basis. And why is their culture and their legacy, and why are these programs been so successful? And it starts obviously with the people, but there's got to be a formula, there's got to be a roadmap, and there's got to be a blueprint to be able to showcase the path, the method, and the way to be able to consistently accomplish this. As we found out during this time in the back-to-back championships, how difficult after you won one, you'd think it would be easier, but it's so difficult to continually stay at a level because you become not only the hunter, now you become the hunted. And when you're in that in sports and even in business, when you're the elite of the elite, there's a different level of people coming at you, and you always want to fall into the place of complacency. You got to make sure that you're continuing to strive and set new goals. And Nike always used to say, if there is no finish line, it's got to be a mentality where you're constantly looking to strive for more. Great teams in business. You look at some of these teams right now, some of them never would have heard of 15 years ago. With you look at Starbucks, Twitter, Facebook, Google, you have Apple, but you look at some of the brands that's been around for a while, Coca-Cola, Pepsi. You've had several that McDonald's that have been around for much longer, but a lot of these companies, Amazon, that have just popped onto the market here lately have come from nowhere in the last 15 years. So you think of great teams in business, what has made them great? You look at, I've seen in 2019, some of the top rated, most trusted companies that we look here. These companies were ones that were ranked as people they trusted. And you look look at the brands from Rolex to Disney to BMW to Lego, Mercedes, Google, Microsoft, Canon, Apple, Sony. These were top-rated, most trusted companies in the country, and most of it's because they got incredible customer service. We just watched, a lot of us in the sports world, just watched the Michael Jordan series, The Last Dance. And you think about some of those great teams that they had there. And I thought this was great. They went 72-10, one of the greatest seasons ever in the history of the NBA. And good teams become great ones when the members trust each other enough to surrender the me for the we. That was Phil Jackson. He did a great job building a team when he was able to get the players to buy in to be all-stars and Hall of Fame players in the role, whatever it may be. When you're building your company, you're building your team, you're developing your culture, are you able to get people to give up something bigger than themselves for the best of the organization, the team? Are they able to take the me themselves out of it and do what's best for we? So how do we talk about that? And we're going to continue to share that coming up. Top consumer ratings on customer service. So you think about these companies that are still striving even during this time right now. Amazon, still one of the biggest companies, and it's probably even gotten bigger during this pandemic. Chick-fil-A, the management and the leadership that's involved in that organization is second to none. If anybody goes through a drive-through at Chick-fil-A, the organization is exceptional in the service, and they make you feel appreciative for buying food from them. Apple, customer service, Marriott hotels, and then grocery stores, Kroger being one of the tops in the country, have just excelled through this pandemic in the most difficult times because of their leadership and through their customer service, how they make you feel. So these are great teams to be able to sustain success through adversity. So when you start building a team, the first thing it starts with is me. So we got to be able to take the me, as we just mentioned with the Chicago Bulls, and turn it into a we. So it is a little bit about you. So it's important. We talked about that in the last segment in this leadership series about relationships and communicating. So it all starts with being able to invest in the individual, which is me, to be able to sell the role into the we. So we talked about that and how important that is. And when you take over an organization, as I did when I arrived here at Stetson, and I've been fortunate to be a part of some great companies and some great teams, and I put together some things I thought would be really good when you first take over something, which I call the 10 steps to build it. The first one we talk about is to evaluate. I think anytime you take over something or you're getting ready to, it's real simple. You got to evaluate where the state of the program is, where the state of the company is. And this is something you can continue to do each year. Even when you're in your culture, during this, my second year here at Stetson, I sat down here the last several months, I evaluated the year, evaluated what we could do better, evaluated our players, our staff, myself, what are things that we can improve on, what are things we've done well on. Second thing is your staff. You got to make sure you put people around you that are equipped to bring different things to your team that maybe you can't bring. Bring people in to facilitate your weaknesses and that can bring strengths and what their role is. So your staff is vital that they're able to share them of what you're trying to do. Third thing is you got to build trust with your team. It's so vital is how you build trust. You've heard me say that word a lot. Fourth thing is being able to create standards. We're talking about our culture, how we're creating of what's expected and what we do. The next thing we talk about is just being able to hold people accountable and demand the climate every day. That means holding people accountable in your culture. Next thing is promote teamwork. How do we promote teamwork? How do we celebrate each other's success? One thing we did with our team every time we won this year, you heard me mention earlier in leadership, is that we took our team to Rodeo Whip, a local ice cream place here in DeLand. And we went there, and matter of fact, 16 times we had 16 wins. But the excitement of our team to be able to go and celebrate those victories, those little victories, were vital. So how do we promote teamwork and celebrate our success? How do we develop confidence? That's like equipping our people. How do we teach our players how to play? How do we teach our staff how to coach? How do we teach our culture what it should look like? Be there before you get there. You heard me mention that earlier in one of my talks. How do we challenge our coaches, and how do we challenge our teams? And I think that's important, how we create that mindset each and every day with the approach that we have. Number 9 is be the example each and every day. How do we lead as the coach, and also how our team and our staff represents what we're doing? And then the last one's just recognition. How do we celebrate with what we do, and how we recognize the accomplishments that we've made? Okay, some of the things that we do. So we had to put together our build it plan, and so here's our roadmap. So one thing I had to do is be able to create vision, not only for our staff but also for our administration and our players. So it's important for them to understand our pyramid of success. And we have our pillars on the bottom: brotherhood, humility, integrity, and grit. And then after our values, then we have our behaviors, and then we talk about basketball related things that we want to be great at. And our goal obviously is to win an ASUN championship and get a degree here at Stetson when you're a senior. So championships and degrees is our goal each and every year. So there's our 4 culture pillars that we talk about. We talk about brotherhood. That's the ability to trust. That's to be able to go through things together. That's the things that it's like family. Forget about me. I love you. Brotherhood is a powerful word in sports and in business and in team. Trust is an incredible component of that. You see, the second one's trust. The third one's grit. Passion plus discipline for a long time is what grit stands for. How are you able to take the boring things and be great at them for a long period of time? That's what grit is. You got to have grit. And then integrity. Integrity is an important part of any culture, but in ours, it is important for the kind of people we have, the kind of coaches we have, and how we represent our families in our university. So the thing we always talk about as a leader, and we're building our team, is what do you get when you play for our coaching staff? This is an example of building our team. This is what people get and players get when they come to our culture. So they see a culture of success. We're big believers, obviously, success leaves clues. This is an example of what we would share with a family and a recruit about the success our staff has had. We've had 1 Olympic gold medal on our staff. We've had 2 national championships. We've had 2 NBA world championships. We've had 3 Final Fours, 3 Elite Eights, 4 Sweet 16s, 9 NBA first round draft picks, and 14 NCAA tournaments. Those are the numbers that our staff, those are facts of things that we've been a part of in our coaching careers that we're able to share with our culture to help grow it. So this is a great example of giving to the people who want to join your team and showing your success, if it be in sports or what is your company's numbers and success of what you're trying to do. Great teams understand their why we do what we do. It's important that we know the individual part of each player, of what their why is and why they do it. And it's even more important of understanding the why of the team. And we got to help create that why sometime, but what we teach and what our culture is, what our 4 pillars are, what is the roadmap that looks like. So great teams, they understand their why, no matter who they are. Those teams have been at the mountaintop, like the teams we had at Florida. You saw the great teams for the Bulls, the Yankees, you see the Patriots, New England Patriots. They understood why they were doing what they do. Because if you don't know your why, when things get hard, you won't be able to push through it. When things get tough and adversity hits, you won't be able to have grit and determination to weather the storm. If you don't know your why with the culture right now, going through the COVID-19 and everything that's been happening, you'll definitely falter when it gets a little tough. So if you know your why, you see this as an opportunity instead of a setback, and you persevere through the tough times. So great teams know their why. John Wooden, this was his pyramid for success. It took him 14 years as a coach to go to his first NCAA tournament, and went on to be the greatest coach of all time and winning 11 championships, national championships, or 10 national championships, I do believe, in a row. And he had a pyramid of success, very similar to the one I had. And this was his. And he was able to use it. And he shared this with his team. And he used different words of what that looked like and what it represented all the way through. So success to him was a peace of mind, which is a direct result of self-satisfaction in knowing you did your best to become the best that you are capable of becoming. So he created a vision, a path, and a mindset and an expectation based on his pyramid of success. And as you can see, after his first 14 years, it finally, through the process, he was able to develop some pretty big time success. So his first 14 seasons, only 3 NCAA appearances, 10 national championships. And as you can see, his roadmap for success was pretty successful with all the trophies and success he had in this picture, which is remarkable. Success leaves clues. Great teams know their why, and there's 4 things to understand your why. And I think this is an important thing. Why does what we do matter? With great teams, I think it's important that we understand why does what we do matter? I think it's important what we're trying to do. What does it matter? How can success influence your company? How can success impact our university? How success can impact our team and us as individuals? How does what we do change our community? How does our success as a company impact our community with what we're able to do and give back? Same with the team. Who are downstream customers? So what that means is, who are the people that's really being impacted? Could be other students, could be our alumni here at this university, could be our family, and it could be players in the future who will come in here because a legacy and a culture of greatness has already been established. The 4th thing is, what happens if we fail to deliver? I think it's important to know that. We need to know what happens if we can't accomplish our why. And why did that happen? So we have to learn from failure and make that a part of success, because it is. Failure is a formula and a part of success if we look at it the right way and learn from it. So these are 4 things to understand your why, and I think you're going to be able to ask questions to yourself and to your team. We talked about this. I'm not going to go in great detail today, but it's important to continually utilize this tool of the 5 H's of team building. Your heritage, your hero, your hope, your highlight, and your heartbreak. These are 5 things we focus on the individual to learn to be able to put those things together and understand the personality and the story behind everybody on our team, from our managers to our doctors to our trainers to our players to our coaches. Everybody has to know everybody's story to build trust and to be able to formulate a plan together to know our why. So, some things great teams do. Great teams speak a different language. We always say our choices make us, and the crisis reveals us. What kind of language are you speaking to your team? And I think that's an important thing. We have to teach our own vocabulary. And our own vocabulary could be, for instance, family. Well, family may mean one thing to you, but family to us is, forget about me, I love you. So you got to be able to lead with the heart before you ask for the hand. So building trust, getting buy-in to believe in, being able to invest in them with how we communicate and build relationships gives me a chance to coach you Do I have permission to coach you and lead you? And so with that, everybody has to know, as I mentioned last time in developing leadership and how to become a leader, is no one cares how much you know till they know how much you care. Thought this was a great thing. I'm not sure how the video will show, but I think you have moments where here we are getting ready to a national championship game. And I think this is a great moment, is sometimes you got to be able to, when you're building your teams, you got to be able to inspire them. That's a big part of your leadership. One of those moments in business on a daily basis or in sports when there's a moment where you're getting ready to play for that monumental goal, which this was for a national championship. And here we was a team that had never been there before at Florida. So how was we able to create and take the nervousness out of our team and be able to remind them of what their why was? And here's a great example in this locker room. Hopefully it'll show up okay with this video, but if not, you'll hear the audio of Billy Donovan speaking to our team live in the locker room and reminding our team what their why was before we went out and beat UCLA, who was the national championship contender for the most NCAA tournament appearances, winning 10 of them. And here we were, the new kid on the block, trying to break through a culture. Okay, I don't think that has audio, so we won't be able to hear that. But what he was talking about was just living in the moment, and that it was their time, and that they had worked all year and they had prepared for this moment. They had sacrificed for this moment, that we were the best team in the country. And it wasn't about one individual. It was about us, our team, going out and playing and living in the moment. So it was all about the moment. So that's what Billy was talking about in this slide. The next thing is great teams improve through scouting. So knowing our opponent is just as important as knowing ourselves. What is our why, but who are we competing against? How we prepare. We spend a lot of time on ourselves, but it's important that we know who we're competing against. And when we're building teams, it's important that our teams are educated about our opponents and who they are. Obviously, one of the greatest competitors in sports is it's not the Tampa Bay Bucks. It may be now with Brady, but it's the New England Patriots, how successful they've been over the last 10 years. You look at Walmart, Sam Walton was one of the greatest of all time about really going out and researching. He spent 85% of his time on the other companies and really identifying what he was competing against. And obviously his legacy is his success is still thriving in this day and market. Great teams know how to huddle. Very vital. We talk about it in sports. We see it all the time. How do you huddle? How do you come together? In basketball, free throws, you get to the line, you huddle up, you got about 10 seconds to give a play or encourage. What are we saying in the huddles? How do we huddle in business? When we're coming together and we're sharing a thought, we're sharing a vision, we're sharing an encouragement. We know how to huddle through good times, through bad times, through all times. So it's important that we're able to share the message and be able to talk about the things that's very vital when it comes down to how to huddle. Great teams know how to huddle. Great teams adapt and embrace change. Could that ever be more effective during this time here right now that we're going through in the COVID-19 time? The new normal is how we're handling that. And I think it's so vital here right now is how companies, we've seen some companies completely just go bankrupt through this time. You see companies who's been here around over 100 years, like Colgate. They've been around for a long time. You've seen Walmart, you've seen Coca-Cola, Disney, Target. Now you see Chick-fil-A and some of these other ones. How do they embrace change? So how will companies change? A lot of people, like now, we're doing talks on Zoom. Zoom all of a sudden has become one of the greatest tools for communication. So for me, from my business, I constantly, like now, talking on Zoom calls with recruits, families, leadership events like tonight, coaching clinics, meeting with my staff. How can we continue to evolve by adapting and changing? And I've met with many CEOs and even coaches who refuse to adapt to the change. I'm not going to do Zoom calls. I'm not going to be on social media. I'm not going to do these things. So it's important that the great teams are able to adapt and adjust. And also, somebody just hit me there, which is a great point. Huddles also is with families. Any way we can huddle, families obviously is vital. Is how do we huddle through adversity? How we huddle together? How we huddle in your spiritual life. Huddles are vital into success and everything. Great teams manage adversity. Like right now, I mean, I feel like that guy on the right up there pushing that rock up the mountaintop every day. It just feel like it's a snowball rolling down the hill. We got to continually take steps each day and push it back up the mountaintop. How are you managing the adversity with your team? Are you taking adversity and you turn it into an opportunity, or are you letting the negative energy eat you up? And I think that's very important, is how we avoid the toxic approach. And the pain of where you are is greater than the pain it will take to change. And I think you got to be able to handle adversity and not let it overcome you. And how do you do that with your team? Well, you got to be constantly communicating, inspiring, sharing the vision, sharing the facts of where things are right now and what do we have to do to change them. And I think you have to continue to invest in your people and be authentic during the time and in managing adversity. Great teams have and develop great leaders. So understand, we talked about our DNA last week of equipping our leaders. How do we develop those? We talked about great teams are player led. Great organizations are led not only by the CEOs but the people that are under them. So having developed great leaders comes down, as you can see on here. There's been leaders all on this page in different entities. You got Michael Jordan, how he led his team to 6 NBA World Championships with a team that really wasn't full of a bunch of stars, a bunch of role players that helped follow him in his leadership. You see the Patriots' success, Tim Cook with Apple. You see all kinds of Steve Jobs, Abraham Lincoln, Mother Teresa, incredible leader. And it had nothing to do with wealth. It had to do with service, how she was a servant leader and how she impacted millions and millions of people with her service. Martin Luther King, how he impacted the world for social rights and what he stood for and how he impacted his people. So these all had different types of leadership, and how they were equipped and also how they equipped people around them is what great teams and leaders are able to do. Great teams avoid the pitfalls of success. So once we do get to the mountaintop and we are able to have success, how do we handle that? And you look at this one, Enron, most of us know in business, that was one of the top companies in the world. They were thriving like no one else. And when you walked in there, and the first thing on their wall was one of their number one values. It was located on the first floor of the Enron culture. When you walk in the building, was integrity. So integrity, we talked about that being one of our pillars as well, but it was also for them. So was their culture about the values that they talked about, or was it about what you're doing? And I think that's important is what you do is who you are. So that's your culture. What you do is who you are. We talk about that with our team, and we talk about that with our staff. So we can talk about all the pillars and the road map to success and all the different things that can impact you, your culture, but what you do is really who you are. So it's important that what people are saying about you when you're not around is what your culture is. A team will always appreciate a great individual if he's willing to sacrifice for the group. So you think about all these leaders in this pictures right here, is a lot of them were great leaders, but they were all sacrificial servants that were able to give up something for the good of the team. And you think about how they've impacted everybody in knowing what their why was. And they made their teams great by their individual sacrifice. And I think that's important. I spoke to my team today and we talked about what are you going to give up this summer in growing yourself, but also coming back here and being able to give something up for our team. What are you going to sacrifice? And I think it's an important thing to continue to grow that mindset. That's how we educate what great teams look like. We talk about all the time with our new guys coming in, and how do you get guys to buy into something bigger than themselves, to be able to look ahead and see what their why is and how their why can impact. We always say, as the tide rises, all boats float. In life, same thing. If you have a boat and it's got a small hole in it, eventually the water is going to flood your boat and it's going to sink. If we rise the tide, everybody's boats float. That means our university, our business, everyone has success when we have success. So understand the bigger picture and the bigger why of what the attainable goal is. Your company, your organization, or your team. And I think this is important. Here's some things of me, coaching. How will you add value? How will you impact as a coach? I've showed this before. These are relationships, my family, my people graduating for me, where I've coached. How will you add value? How will you add value to your team? How you will add value to the people that you're around? And if you're a leader, you are a coach. And a coach is just not sports. A coach could be like a father. A coach could be like a CEO. So how are you coaching people? And obviously, these are some ways that you can follow me on social media that I've mentioned here before. But these are some good things, I think, and what makes teams great. And I'd like to open up to some questions here. A lot of these conversations, I've been talking a lot for a long period of time, but I'm hoping these were some good things to really help you all and how to build great teams. And I've been fortunate to be a part of some great teams over my time and be around some great leaders and Hall of Fame coaches. But I've had the great opportunity more than anything to be around some great business leaders and CEOs and watch them take companies from a very small level to one or two companies to 25 companies. And there's a lot of correlations to how they've been able to build their teams to what we do in sports. So hopefully this will give you some great thoughts to ponder on and in your why for yourself first, and then be able to create that for your team and help them accomplish that vision.
Thanks, Coach. And like Donnie mentioned, we'll go ahead and open it up to questions and comments now. So anything anybody has, feel free to drop it in the chat box and we'll address it. We did have a couple come in already. One is, are there right and wrong ways to get people who might be more introverted or work better by themselves to adapt to being a part of a team culture now?
I don't know if there's a right or wrong way. I think it's really somebody who's introverted. I really think some of those type people you got to spend more individual time with. And once you gain their trust, I think you got to coach everybody differently. There's not going to be one voice in how it's going to be done. I think the commitment for yourself and them and trust being built, over time, people will eventually buy into the vision. And I think it's just it's a continually relentless process. Sometimes they don't have to stand out in front. Like I said, there's three ways to lead people. Sometimes in front, sometimes you got to hold their hand, be side by side, especially with introverted people. And then sometimes you got to be behind and you got to push them to the top. So I think you just got to really get to know the individual and figure out what their language is and be able to speak it and get them to really try to buy in. And it's never going to be the perfect world of everybody buys in at the same time. That's when magic's in the bottle. We've had that a few times, but it is a process of continually finding the right approach to each individual to create it.
Absolutely. We had another one come in here from JD. He asked, Coach, what's the intersection between culture and talent?
The intersection between culture and talent. Well, talent is obviously the price tag of any success. You got to have talent, but your culture is usually environment. It's like good soil that you put talent in, and if talent can get in good culture, and it can become superstar status. That's when you can become elite. You can take a less talented group, like we've had before in sports many times, and be able to put them in a good soil and a good culture and get them to become a great team and be able to exceed expectations over a very much more talented team that maybe didn't have the same teamwork and culture. So, through work and effort, you can outbeat talent, but you do got to have talent. It's hard to go to the Kentucky Derby and win the race without some thoroughbreds. And the donkey hasn't won that race too many times, so I'm very aware of that. So, but you do got to have that combination where you do have a mix. But I'd rather take a less talented player who's going to be coachable, you feel, and is going to fit your culture and is going to buy into what you feel your standards and your integrity is about, than take a superstar who's already got it all figured out, who will not buy into what you're going to do. And I think it's hard to get that right all the time because I've seen it both ways. But you're looking for obviously talented players that have the qualities to be able to fit in your culture.
Absolutely. It's great stuff. And another one came in from Derek. How do you address someone that chooses to have their own agenda and doesn't buy in to the team culture?
Yeah, I don't know if there's one word for that, Derek. That's a great question, and you always got that challenge as leader. That's why you got to continue to sometimes a lot of one-on-one coaching with them. Sometimes you got to continually to celebrate and confront and hold them accountable to that as well. And then you got to make decisions, and if they're not buying into the team, how you want to do that. If in sports we could set you down. I don't like suspending players unless it's really detrimental to the team of something they've done or continuing to do. But your job is to get buy-in, and how they buy in. Every kid is different. You got to know their why, and maybe what his story is and why he's not buying in. I think we have to listen and try to figure that out. But if there's a kid that's not there, you have to make that decision as a leader. Will they fit your culture and your team over time? And what can I change? There's some things you can't change, and you got to figure out when that time is right.
Absolutely. And we did talk about trust a lot through the last 3 weeks, and we have one. How important is it to be able to trust the team you have around you, whether that's on the court or in an office, any other setting like that? How important is it to be able to trust the team you have around you?
It is vital. If you don't have trust, you're not going to succeed very far. And trust is the human currency. You can't buy it; it's earned, and you have to be able to develop, and you have to fight for that every day, especially with young people. There's so many messages. I haven't seen my team in 4.5 months in person, only on Zoom. So there's so many challenges each and every day. If it's important to you, there's no better investment than the individuals already in your organization. And as you continue to add people into your organization and your team, it's important that you put the right people on the bus. So what is the right people? Well, the right people's got to be the formula. You saw mine. What it was is you got to create one for your team and for your culture, which is a blueprint. And that blueprint's got to fit the character of the people you want to work with every day and the people that you want to build trust with. And how are these people going to relate with each other? Will they buy into each other? Are these people, everybody's going to bring uniqueness from where they're from and their culture. And how do you blend that together?
Absolutely. And then kind of piggybacking off of that one, how important is it then that everyone on the team is ready and willing to achieve that goal, and they're working towards that same goal, whether it's director or supervisor or employee? How important is it that everybody on the team is looking towards that same goal?
It is vital. I think that's where it comes from the coach, the CEO, is that we got to make everybody be superstars in their role. Kevin Garnett, great player. Heard Doc Rivers say, head coach for the Clippers, who I work for. He said Kevin Garnett, when they won world championships for the Boston Celtics, said Kevin Garnett is the greatest superstar to be a role player. And it's a great comment because he never saw himself as a superstar because he was willing to sacrifice for the team. But he was always trying to figure out how to get other guys to buy into their role. So he played a role. Even though he stood out as the star, he also was able to get people to buy into the little things. And how do you become a superstar in your role? And no matter what it is. But that goes back to the 10 steps to build it. How do you celebrate people? How do you encourage people? How do you evaluate people? How do you hold people accountable from the manager all the way up to your staff to the 13th player on your roster? They all got to see they have value. How you add value. So people will let you coach them and people will buy into them if they feel you're adding value. How are we making you better? What's in this for me? Why am I doing this? And I think you got to continue to have that message.
Absolutely. And then another one just came in from Debbie. How do you deal with a climber who only takes from others and does not reciprocate with the rest of the team?
Yeah, that's a great question. I can probably do a 30-minute talk on that. And you're going to have that. And you have to continually illustrate through what, as you've seen me do here a little bit here, what that looks like. You got to get buy-in, and it's going to be different for each kid because all of these kids that come into, especially college, and would come into a business as well, who are high achievers, who are wanting to get to the mountaintop as quick as they can, is sometimes they don't pay attention to how they get there. They step on everybody on the way up. So it's important for you is how you're coaching them, how you're sharing that vision with them, how are you getting them to see their role with the team, even with the mindset they have. And I think we always say in sports, you got to be able to have the best relationship with your best player, and you got to be able to coach your best player, your most talented player. So sometimes that may require spending more time with somebody like that individually to get them to buy into something and see the why it could be bigger than their individual success of what it could do for the whole company and how that could elevate them personally. So you got to be able to have both. Like a Michael Jordan's a great example. For the first 5 years, Michael Jordan was one of the greatest players, but never won a lot. LeBron James never won a lot. And all of a sudden, they realized how to get everybody else around them to be great. Greatness is able to take other players and lift them to the level of themselves. And so that's what a great coach is able to do, is being able to share that message and help people make others great around them, even though they're great achievers. That's a talent. And you don't want to take that away from someone. You want to be able to teach them how to use that as a tool to impact other people.
Yes, great questions, everyone. We'll leave it open for another minute or two if anybody has any last minute questions or comments to drop in. I am going to quickly drop in one more time a couple links. The first one will be for our webinar interest form. Like I mentioned earlier, we take the feedback you all provide us on that to build out our future content that we provide for you. So if you can take a few moments to fill that out, we really appreciate it. The second link will be the link to our alumni and parent engagement website where you can check out all the upcoming digital events. We got some great stuff coming up the rest of this month and through July. And the third link will be to the Go Hatters website. It's the men's basketball page. You can keep up to date with all the news related to men's basketball when the schedule gets released, rosters, all that good stuff. Follow them there, get on their social channels, dropping that one more time in the chat box. And like I said, we'll leave it open for another minute if anybody has any last minute questions. I thank you all for joining us tonight. Again, I thank you, Donnie, for taking the time in the last few weeks to join us. This has been great. And we certainly look forward in the alumni office to when we can get back to in-person events, doing some great stuff with the basketball team.
No, absolutely, Alex. Thanks for having me. And I wish I was in person to meet a lot of the alumni out there. And hopefully I'll get a chance to meet some people here in the fall. But thanks for the opportunity, and just so excited to be here, be a part of Stetson.
Absolutely. We are so lucky to have you on campus now. And that's what the comments coming in now. Everybody's saying, thanks, Coach Jones. Looking forward to meeting you on campus finally one day when we can all get back there, which will be great. We're all excited to get back soon.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And with that, I think we will go ahead and close it up tonight. Again, thank you everybody for joining us. We really appreciate it. Thank you to Coach Jones for taking the time, and hope everybody has a great night, and go Hatters.
Go Hatters. Thank you.